Hi, how you doing? Welcome to another session, another episode of what we want to call it, of basic piano, basic music theory. Have not recorded one of these in a while, so I'm glad to get back behind the keyboard and behind the camera. Okay, what are we going to talk about today? Well, it's a topic that a lot of people who are first starting to play always wonder. What do you do with your left hand? I mean, a lot of times we can play chords when you first start learning to play chords, but then it's always, how do I work my left hand in to where it sounds good and it's effective? Well, that's what we're going to cover today. I'm going to talk about 3 ways to use your left hand when you're playing. Okay, let's get into this. 3 things we're going to talk about is octaves and fifths. Now, like I say, if you've taken some of my previous video courses, I'm assuming that you've already gone through the scales. You understand scales. You understand how scales are put together. You know, from 1 to 8 notes, or 1 back to 1 is an octave. So, you know, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. We use that key a lot. So we're going to talk about octaves and fifths and how they are utilized with the left hand. Also going to talk about bass runs. As a matter of fact, if you hear the video when it first came on, I was playing a little bass run. Well, I'm going to show you how to do that as well. Also, we're going to talk about playing chords with your left hand. That is one of my weakest areas that I practice on, is how to play chords with the left hand. That frees up the right hand to play the melody of the song, some other things. So we're going to talk about those 3 things, and we're also going to talk a little bit about timing and the importance of timing, and with the left hand, what it does with timing with the music. Okay, let's jump into this. First of all, we're going to talk about octaves and the fifth notes. If you remember, and we're going to be in the key of C through all of this. So when you think about a scale, it's in the key of C. We start on C. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. And you remember the numbering system that we had talked about also, right? Where C is 1, D is 2, E is 3, F 4, G is 5, A is 6, B is a 7, and C is an 8, or back to 1. So when we say octave, if I start at a C and I play another C, that's an octave. And that's what we do many times as ear players. We're playing octaves when we play a song. So I'm just playing a C chord, and I'm just playing with these 2 fingers, the pinky and the thumb. Pinky, thumb. A C and a C. And I do that very rhythmically. You know, we talked about timing earlier. A lot of times your bass is almost, think of that left hand almost like a drum, because it establishes your rhythm. And so I'm playing on C. Now, like I say, let me go to the F, which would be what? The 4. You remember that? And I would just move up my bass. Same thing. I'm just playing 2 Fs. Okay, so now that we understand those 2 components, let's add the fifth. So here we go. In the key of C, if you remember, the 5th note in that scale is what? A G. So if I want to add a little more flavor to my bass without getting too complicated, I can just rhythmically throw that G in there as well. So I can play the C octave and the 5th. And if I go to the F chord, I'm playing an F, a C, and an F. So that's how sometimes you can use that left hand to maintain rhythm, as well as throw that 5th in there to kind of break it up a little bit. And we just playing arpeggios. And so the pattern, you know, it really doesn't matter. I'm just kind of making this little pattern up as and I'm going to go to the G. G, D, G. And if you can grasp that, you know, you've gone a long way on learning how to play a lot of things, because you can play the chord in your right hand and the bass, octaves, and a 5th in your left hand. What you see now, here's a chart that kind of breaks it out. If we take the whole scale, you see you can play every chord, every note in that scale, and it shows you the left hand octave. If I'm playing a C, 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 and a G would be the 5th. If I go to the D, it's D and a D, the A is the 5th. If I go to the E, E and an E, and guess what? You got it, the B. You see in the pattern? And I can go all the way up that scale playing the octave and the fifth. All the way up. All the way up the scale. Got it? All right, so that's how we use octaves and a fifth as one method. Okay, let's go to another method that we call what? Runs, how to play runs, bass runs. Okay, I'm gonna just show you two types because this can get a little complicated. And I'm telling you, when you first start to learn this, it's like trying to pat your head and rub your stomach at the same time because it's a lot about rhythm. It's about timing. Now, you really have to kind of understand the numbering because when I'm sure you look at this stuff up here, you're going, what in the world is all that? Well, I'm going to show you how to build a pattern. Let's start with run number one. All right, here we go. So, here again, we got the same layout. Here's our C scale, and the notes in red are the ones we're going to play. So what we're going to do, okay, we're going to start up here at the C, this first C. Come back to the 2. So we're going to drop all the way back, which is a D, right? Then we're going to go to the D sharp, to the E, to the F. Now notice right here, we're going to skip up to the A or the 6. We got it. Then to the sharp and to the 7. And we're back to the C. All right, let's do that again. C, D, D sharp, E, F, A sharp, E, C. You got that? Let's try it again. I'm going to speed it up just a little bit. You get that? Practice that. Practice just doing it with your left hand. I'm sure you've heard that pattern a lot, especially if you've been in some Pentecostal type churches and where the Holy Church, and they get that little drum beat going and that little bass going. You've heard that. So that's basically what they're playing. Now you might say, okay, well I got that down. So what am I playing in my right hand? Well, going back to our basic chord, the run chart that we've got here, really you can just take 2 chords. And it's all timing and synchronization. For this, I'm going to play 2 chords that will complement this bass run. One is a C minor 7th. If you remember a minor, you lower the 3rd to get a minor. And I'm going to use the 7th, which would be the 7th, which would be the B flat in the key of C. So I'm going to play a G, B flat, C. That's going to be the first chord. And then I'm going to change to the second chord, which is an F 7th. Which would be F, A, C, and the 7th for an F would be E flat. So, pop. I'm just going to pop those chords. You say, how do you pop a chord? You know, like, you pop your collar? No. Well, similar, I guess. Just hit them. Watch. Now, you say, how am I synchronizing these together? Well, I'm going to start, when I start on the first C at the top, that's where I'm going to start with the first chord. That's C minor 7th. And as I walk the bass up, when I get to the 4 or the F, that's when I switch to the F 7th. And back to the C, F, C, F, C, F. And the rest of it is just rhythm. It's just timing and synchronization. But as you see, it's a very simple run. And if you practice that, you will get better at it. But trust me, it takes practice. Okay, let's look at the second run. The second run we did is very similar, but instead of operating on the dominant 1 and the 4, which was the C and the F, this one actually turns on the 1 and the 5, the C and the G. And for this one, we're going to use two chords. The first chord is the same. We're still going to use this C minor seventh, which was what? A G, B flat, C, E flat. But now we're just going to use a G seventh instead of an F seventh. With G seventh, the seventh would be the F. And a G chord with an F in it. We got it? All right, so let's take a look at the chart for run number 2. Okay, here we go. Run 2. What does it look like? Now, if you notice now, we're not going down to the D. We're actually going to go down to the E. That's where we're going to start at. After we start, actually going to start on the C and go back to the third note, which is the E. So we're going to start on the C, back to the E, which is the third. Got it? F, this F sharp, G, A sharp, B, and back to the C. That's the pattern. All right, let's try it again. Got it? C, E, F sharp, G, A, B flat, B, C. And the same thing, we can add the chords to that. There we go. 2 runs that you can practice, and you can, and you know, and here again, it's all about timing with when you do these runs. But that will give you a lot of dexterity in how to move about with your left hand. You know, and then you can play a lot of this, just that regular shout. I love to praise Him. I love to praise His name. I love to praise. All that little run will fit right in there. Okay, so what's the third type? Left-hand chords. Left-hand chords really is where you're taking the chord, where initially, remember, I taught you how to play with the chord in your right hand. Now you're going to be playing the chord in your left hand. And what does that do for you? Well, that frees your right hand up to be able to play the melody of the song or to play different arpeggios or different runs. Now, like I say, I kind of royally suck at playing left-hand chords, so I'm going to stumble through this and kind of show you how to do this. So we're going to take a song that we taught a while back called Amazing Grace. If you think of the song Amazing Grace, you know, it has basically 3 chords, the 1, the 4, and the 5, the C, the F, and the G. So we're going to play on a C chord, F chord, and the G. So if I'm playing Amazing Grace, I'm going to start up here, so I'm going to that way I can play the melody of the song in my right hand, and I'm playing chords in my left hand. And I'm going to switch to the F and back to the C, just like it is written. And I'm going to go to the G. To the G, got it? There you go. And back to the C chord, got it? Right. And where are we gonna go? F. And back to the C. G, and finish up or resolve back to the C. So I'm playing the chord now in my left hand, and it frees up the right hand to do other things. Okay, all right, so we've looked at 3 methods of how you can now better incorporate your left hand into your playing. You can play octaves and a fifth, you know, where you're just doing the octaves. You can play runs. And you can play chords. I recommend practicing and try to become proficient at all 3, because All three have its place in music. It has its place in worship. It has its place in the kingdom of heaven. As we look at these. Okay, so last thing we do want to talk about, and we've kind of worked this in, is timing. I'm telling you, your left hand, when you think about a piano, for instance, even a guitar, is that a string instrument or a percussion instrument? And my answer to you is that it's both. Because when the hammers on that piano are hitting strings, that's actually a percussive movement. So your left hand many times, especially if you in a really small church where you don't have a drummer and a bass player and it's just you and your keyboard or you and your piano, you are the one that's maintaining the tempo and the rhythm. And many times that's done with the left hand, especially when you're doing things like run. Those types of movements are done by the left hand. So as you work your left hand, just remember, sometimes you got to think about that hand being the rhythm section of your musical instrument. Guitar, similarly, many times you hear people play guitar, and they're just kind of hitting the body of the guitar to keep the rhythm, because these types of stringed instruments, they are multi-timbral and multifunction. Okay, so you know what? I think I've covered about everything I can ever tell you in a short amount of time about how to better utilize your left hand as you progress in playing the piano. Listen, God bless you. He who has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the church. Keep praising, keep practicing, keep believing. You'll get there.